Lord of Mysteries 2, Circle of Inevitability. Chapter 240, Bewitchment. Lumion cast a contemplative gaze at Jenna, his lips forming a tight line. You lack the awareness of an assassin and the understanding that you've stepped into the realm of mysticism. Had you possessed such insight, you might have joined mystical gatherings through Franca and procured valuable resources in the past month or two. Though they may not rival the potency of my healing agent, it would have been a proactive step instead of watching your mother's condition deteriorate. Jenna, instead of erupting in a fit of humiliation and resorting to vulgar retorts, remained silent for a few moments before curtly acknowledging his words. This response left Lumion at a loss. He clicked his tongue and spoke again. Of course, considering your financial constraints and the weight of debts and tuition fees, even if you were to participate in these mysticism gatherings, you wouldn't be able to afford much. It would be more of an opportunity to earn money or valuable items by accepting commissions. Just then, Jenna's brother, Julian, arrived with a doctor and 2 nurses. The doctor glanced at Elodie with a puzzled expression and inquired, I recall that there was no need to resuscitate her. You remembered incorrectly. Lumion calmly interjected. The doctor, overwhelmed by the influx of injured patients, had his memories tangled and disorganized. Upon hearing Lumion's remark, he assumed he must have mistaken the person. Consequently, he swiftly tended to Elodie's remaining external injuries and arranged for her to be carried into the carriage, awaiting transportation to the hospital. Connected to Quartier de Noël and the bustling market district, stood Passy Bridge, one of the 5 bridges that stretched over the mighty Srenzo River in the city of Trier. Nestled beside Passy Bridge was the Holy Palace Hospital, generously funded by the Eternal Blazing Sun Church. Elodie, a devout follower of the Eternal Blazing Sun, had been admitted to this renowned establishment. Placed on the top floor of the white 6-story building, she shared a ward with 5 other patients. Jenna watched as doctors and nurses meticulously drew blood, conducted examinations, and administered intravenous drips. A soft sigh escaped her lips. The hospital has undergone quite a transformation in the past few years. Oh? Lumion was puzzled. Jenna's expression darkened as she replied. A few years ago, when my father and the others were brought to the hospital, the more severe cases were immediately taken to the operating room. Those with lesser injuries were simply bandaged and given medication to gauge its effectiveness. There was no blood being drawn, and the examinations were rudimentary. It's completely different now. The entire process seems to have changed. That's a good thing. Lumion nodded. It looked more professional. As the 2 spoke in hushed tones, Jenna's brother, Julian, diligently assisted the doctors and nurses. He answered inquiries about the patient's normal physical conditions, aided in moving 4 stands, and was dispatched to the pharmacy as needed. However, even after the medical professionals in their white coats had concluded their tasks, he had yet to return. The doctor overseeing Elodie's care approached Jenna, holding a writing board, and observed her rose-colored gown. His expression softened. Is Elodie your mother? He inquired. Yes, Jenna confirmed with a nod. The male doctor pondered for a moment before speaking. Your mother's condition is better than I anticipated. It seems surgery may not be necessary at this time. Of course, this assessment is preliminary and contingent upon the results of the tests we conducted. That's some good news. On the other hand, your mother has suffered severe burns. She may need to remain hospitalized for months, half a year, or even longer. Even if she recovers, she will likely be in a weakened state. The church's philanthropic foundation will cover the initial 2 days of treatment. The remaining expenses will be deducted once the accident insurance from the factory is settled. However, you must be prepared to bear the subsequent costs yourself. It won't be a small sum. I must caution you not to have excessive expectations of the accident insurance. From my experience, it typically takes an average of 3 to 5 years to obtain compensation. You must understand that our INTIS laws tend to favor factory owners and bankers in order to protect their interests. Jenna didn't hesitate for a moment. I will ensure my mother's full recovery. Jenna had already contemplated the possibility of borrowing money from both Franca and Lumion if she found herself in need of a substantial sum. She was willing to repay them in installments at a later date. Whether it meant making monthly or weekly payments for the treatment, she was prepared to cut back and save, reducing her previous debt payments, while also relying on her income as a part-time underground singer. However, this meant that her plan to remain an underground singer for just 1 year, as she had initially intended, would need to be extended. It seemed she might have to continue as an underground singer for 2 or even 3 years. The doctor briefly assessed Jenna's appearance and attire before giving her the necessary instructions. Take this form and make a payment of 200 Vril at the payment counter on the first floor. 200. Jenna breathed a sigh of relief. She signed the form under her real name, Celia Bello, and took it with her as she descended the stairs. On her way down, she glanced at Lumion, who was by her side, and hesitated before speaking. If I ever find myself in need of a large sum for medical fees in the future, I think I would like to borrow from you. Jenna had always been a stubborn individual with her own principles. In the past, when she worked tirelessly to earn money in various dance halls within the market district, the thought of borrowing from Franca or asking for her help in securing an easy and lucrative part-time job had never crossed her mind. But now, for the sake of her mother, Elodie, she was willing to let go of her stubbornness in this regard. Although Lumion had already squandered more than 700 Vril on himself and received an advance from the proceeds he could obtain from Sal de Balbrise, he showed no signs of concern. He replied nonchalantly, "Okay." Jenna regarded him suspiciously. "I thought you might hesitate for a moment. Franca mentioned that you needed a significant sum of money for something important." Lumion chuckled. "That's for advancing and purchasing the main ingredient for Pyromaniac. However, it doesn't prevent me from lending you money. As a beyonder and the leader of the Savoy mob, even if I don't have a caput at the moment, I can assist you in acquiring the necessary funds. The simplest solution would be to have Renee sign a long-term contract with you, advancing you 10,000 Vril. Then, 50% of your income from the dance hall will be deducted each day to repay the loan in installments. Once it's fully repaid, the contract will naturally be terminated." Jenna fell silent for a moment, realizing that something that had deeply troubled her was easily resolved in Seal's presence. Lumion glanced at her and smirked. "As an assassin, you shouldn't fret about medical expenses like these. If you aim to advance in the future, you'll need tens of thousands in funds. You need to change your mindset now. Don't hold the law in such high regard. As you heard earlier, Intis's laws don't protect the poor. We can only protect ourselves. Once you've come to terms with this, we'll kidnap the former factory owner and extract enough cash from him. After the verdict is announced, and he pays the compensation for your father's accident, you can donate the money to someone in need. As long as we execute it cleanly, combined with Franca's anti-divination measures, the likelihood of success is exceedingly high. It won't leave a trace behind. It's improbable for a factory owner like him to have beyonder bodyguards." Jenna's heart raced at his words. She hesitated for a moment before speaking. "It just doesn't sit right with me." "Damn it, are you the instigator, or will I become the instigator? How are you so adept at bewitching people? Eventually, you'll have to face the consequences of breaking the law, won't you?" Lumion smirked once again. "I didn't finish. We only do what's necessary. We can't act recklessly. Not only would it bring danger, but it could also increase the risk of losing control. Kidnapping the factory owner is to reclaim the compensation your family deserves." Jenna fell silent once more. Realizing they were about to reach the first floor, she hurriedly said, "I need to use the washroom." By the time she emerged from the washroom, she had a stack of 200 Vril notes in her hand. Seeing Jenna pay the initial treatment fee, Lumion glanced at her rose-colored gown and commented, "You can't tend to a patient dressed like this. I'll return to the dance hall and fetch your clothes. I'll also help you secure some time off. If your mother's condition worsens, come to me or Franca immediately." Having just examined Elodie's luck and confirmed that her condition was no longer critical, though still uncertain of improvement, Lumian found it somewhat chaotic. It might have been dependent on the hospital's treatment effectiveness. Okay. Jenna pursed her lips and nodded. On the second floor of Salle de Bal Brise. Just as Lumian was about to inform manager Rene about Jenna and asked him to reschedule tonight's performance, Louis approached him. Louis cast a quick glance around and lowered his voice. Boss, about half an hour ago, Boss sent someone to deliver a bag of items to the financial safe. He said it was for you. Something from Boss. Supplementary ingredients for the pyromaniac potion? As expected of a mid-sequence beyonder of the Hunter pathway. Lumian nodded slightly, pleased, and passed through the cafe, entering the second-floor corridor. Upon opening the safe, he felt a burning sensation. Inside the grayish-white cloth bag were 3 glass bottles. One contained bubbling crimson blood, from which flames burst with each bubble. Another held blood-colored powder at the bottom, while the third contained a finger-sized stone emitting a red fluorescent light. Fire salamander blood, red crown balsam powder, magma pyroxene. Indeed, supplementary pyromaniac ingredients. Lumian picked up the items, satisfied. 3 Rue de Blouses Blanches, outside apartment 601. Lumian, having left Salle de Bal Brise, headed straight to Franca's place. He intended to borrow 4,000 vril d'or, using his share of the harvest sacrifice as collateral. Upon opening the door and seeing Lumian, Franca clicked her tongue and remarked, "Did you hear? There was an explosion at a factory in the southern part of the market district. Numerous incidents have been occurring in the market district lately, giving me the sense that a storm is brewing." Upon hearing this, Lumian instantly recalled something. He spoke in a deep voice. There was an accident at the Goodville chemical factory. This morning, the owner of the factory paid a visit to the Member of Parliament's office.